Hey everyone, before we dive into today's cases, I just want to take a moment to say a huge thank you for liking, subscribing, and supporting the channel. It truly means so much, and I appreciate each and every one of you. Today's cases is yet another tragic reminder of how obsession and rejection can take a devastating turn. When one person refuses to accept the end of a relationship or take no for an answer, their actions can spiral into something unthinkable. This story serves as a chilling example of just how dangerous fixation can become. Emma Jane Walker was born on March 20th, 2000 in Knoxville, Tennessee to her parents, Jill and Mark Walker. Jill, an elementary school teacher, and Mark, a dedicated father, raised Emma alongside her younger brother, Evan. From a young age, Emma was known for her kindness, bright personality, and determination. She had a magnetic presence, drawing people toward her with her infectious energy. As she entered high school in the fall of 2014, Emma joined the cheerleading squad at Central High School. She excelled academically as an honor student and was actively involved in extracurricular activities. She was a member of Health Occupation Students of America and the National Beta Club, balancing her academics, social life, and athletic commitments effortlessly. Emma had big dreams. She planned to study neonatal nursing in college, hoping to dedicate her life to caring for newborns. She was the kind of person who left an impact on everyone she met, loyal, compassionate, and full of life. However, like many teenage girls, her high school years wouldn't just be about academics and extracurriculars. Boys would inevitably become part of the story. And in Emma's case, one boy in particular would change the course of her life forever: William Riley Gall. William Riley Gall, who went by his middle name, Riley, was born in 1998. Raised by his mother and grandparents, Riley had a seemingly normal upbringing. He was a standout student and a well-liked member of the Central High School football team. Despite being a popular jock, he wasn't the typical arrogant athlete. His friends described him as funny and laid back, with a passion for video games and church. When Emma, then a 14-year-old freshman, first crossed paths with Riley, a junior at the time, their attraction was immediate. He was 2 years older, and as the star football player, he quickly caught Emma's eye. Riley, who was already in a relationship, soon broke things off with his girlfriend to pursue Emma. It wasn't long before they became the quintessential high school couple, the football player and the cheerleader. At first, Riley seemed like the perfect boyfriend. He was charming, polite, and well-mannered. Emma's parents, Mark and Jill, initially liked him, describing him as the kind of boy next door every parent would approve of. However, their impression of Riley quickly began to shift. The first red flag appeared when Riley kept his promise to take his ex-girlfriend to the junior prom, despite already being in a relationship with Emma. He then planned to take Emma to his senior prom the following year. This raised concerns for Emma's parents, who felt that his priorities weren't in the right place. But Emma was unfazed. She was smitten with Riley, and her social media was flooded with pictures of them together. Loving selfies, playful moments, and affectionate captions. Emma's friends, however, weren't as convinced. While some assumed Riley was just shy, they later realized his behavior was far more concerning. Over time, Riley became possessive and controlling. He didn't want Emma spending time with anyone but him, and when she did, he would bombard her with messages, demanding to know where she was and who she was with. Her friends tried to warn her, telling her they didn't like the way Riley treated her, but Emma dismissed their concerns. Her parents also noticed the change in their daughter. Worried about the toxicity of the relationship, they confiscated her phone, hoping to create some distance. But Riley found a way around their restrictions, giving Emma an iPod Touch so she could secretly message him over Wi-Fi. For the next 2 years, their relationship remained volatile. They broke up and got back together countless times, each argument more dramatic than the last. Riley's behavior only escalated. He would send Emma relentless text messages, call her repeatedly, and even wait outside her workplace for hours. His obsession with her became alarming. At one point, he sent her a chilling message: "You're dead to me. I'll check the obituary." But just as quickly as the threats came, so did the apologies. He would flood her with remorseful messages saying, "I'm sorry for however I act. I love you more than words can describe." Emma's parents knew they had to intervene. By the fall of 2016, they decided enough was enough. They grounded her, only allowing her to leave the house for school and cheerleading. They monitored her phone and social interactions closely, hoping to break the toxic cycle once and for all. To their relief, it seemed to work. Emma began to seem like her old self again. She spent more time with her family, ate dinner with them, and even texted her best friend, Keegan, telling her she and Riley were finally done for good. When Emma saw pictures of Riley with other girls at college, she knew she had made the right decision. But as expected, Riley didn't take the breakup well. On Friday, November 18, 2016, Emma was allowed to attend a friend's gathering. At around 11:30 p.m., her friend Zach arrived and was immediately pulled aside by Emma. She showed him a series of disturbing text messages she had received from an unknown number. The messages read, "Come outside alone if you don't want to see a loved one get hurt. Go to your car with your keys. If you don't comply, I will hurt them." Emma assumed it was a sick joke, possibly one of Riley's friends playing a prank on her. She responded, threatening to call the police. But the texts continued, growing increasingly unsettling. Then, another message arrived. "Riley has been dropped outside the house." Alarmed, Emma and Zach ran outside, and there he was. Riley was lying face down in a ditch, clutching his head. He claimed he had been kidnapped, but couldn't remember what had happened. Emma, now crying, told him to leave her alone and walked back inside. Riley then called his friend Noah, telling him the same story about being kidnapped, but Noah didn't believe a word of it. The following morning, just after 10 a.m., Emma was driving home with her friend Haley when they spotted a man dressed in all black walking near her street. Emma dropped Haley off and returned home to get ready for work. But soon, the doorbell started ringing and someone began pounding on the door. Terrified, Emma texted her friends, as well as the one person she thought would help her. "Riley. I hate you, but I need you right now," she messaged. Riley responded immediately, saying he was on his way. By the time he arrived, the man was gone, but Haley had seen him up close and had no doubt it was Riley. She even texted him, asking why he had been lurking outside Emma's house. Riley denied everything. That Sunday night, Emma's parents drove her to and from work to ensure she was safe. She seemed relaxed and spent the evening chatting with friends about school assignments. At around midnight, she went to bed. Unbeknownst to her, Riley, who was now back at college, borrowed his roommate's phone and called Emma. He later claimed that during the conversation, she told him she never wanted to get back together. After this, Riley sent her multiple texts and called her over 40 times, leaving countless voicemails, but Emma never responded. At around 6 a.m., Jill Walker entered her daughter's room to wake her for school. She called Emma's name, but there was no response. She reached out and touched Emma's leg, still nothing. Then, as Jill looked at her daughter's face, she knew something was terribly wrong. Emma's skin was pale and her lips were blue. Jill frantically checked for a pulse, but there was none.
Where is your emergency?
Jill Walker!
What's going on there?
I just tried to wake up my daughter for school, and she has no pulse.
How old is she?
She's 16.
You said that she's non-responsive?
Yeah.
16-year-old Emma Walker was gone. When police arrived at the Walker home, they initially thought she may have passed from natural causes. A small amount of blood near her mouth suggested she may have vomited, possibly due to ingesting something. But as officers scanned the room, something far more sinister became apparent. A small hole in the wall near Emma's bed. A closer look confirmed their worst fears. It was a bullet hole. Someone had shot Emma while she was sleeping. Stepping outside, investigators searched for the source of the gunfire. 2 shell casings were soon discovered near her bedroom window, and a second bullet hole was found in another section of the wall, at nearly the same height as the first. The shooter had fired 2 shots into Emma's room from just 4 or 5 feet away. One bullet struck behind her left ear, killing her instantly. The second lodged into her pillow. Whoever was responsible knew exactly where Emma would be sleeping. The community was devastated. Tributes poured in for Emma, including a candlelight vigil at Central High, and at that week's football game, her fellow cheerleaders released balloons in her honor. Among those mourning her loss was her ex-boyfriend, Riley Gall. However, as detectives began piecing together Emma's final hours, Riley's name came up repeatedly. The more people they spoke to, the clearer it became that Emma's former boyfriend might know more than he was letting on. Meanwhile, some of Riley's friends had grown increasingly concerned about his behavior. They revealed to detectives that just a day after his bizarre kidnapping incident, Riley told them he feared for his life and had stolen his grandfather's gun for protection. He even showed the firearm to his friend Alex. Another friend, Noah, recalled a disturbing conversation where Riley asked how to remove fingerprints from a gun. He had claimed he was asking on behalf of his roommate. Coincidentally, just one day before Emma was shot, Riley's grandfather reported his .22 caliber pistol missing, the very same type of gun used in the shooting. As if that wasn't suspicious enough, Riley later approached Alex and Noah with a request. He wanted them to help him dispose of the gun in the Tennessee River because, according to him, it could somehow implicate him in Emma's death, despite insisting he had nothing to do with it. With growing suspicions, detectives brought Riley in for questioning. At first, Riley appeared cooperative, but his statements quickly raised red flags. He was defensive, claiming he felt like he was being badgered. "I understand people thinking I've got a gun or something," Riley said nervously, "but I hope to God I'm not a suspect in her death. I'm hoping because, his voice trailed off, mumbling something unintelligible. As detectives pressed him, Riley's carefully rehearsed story began to unravel. His tone was cold and detached. He referred to Emma dismissively, avoiding using her name, calling her the girl instead. "The girl, she texted me." "Which girl?" an officer asked. "The one that passed away," Riley replied. "What's her name?" He hesitated before answering. Detectives noted how emotionless and disconnected Riley seemed. His timeline of events didn't add up, and cell phone data soon confirmed their suspicions. He had been lying. Despite his insistence that he had been in Maryville when Emma was killed, his phone records told a different story. At 12:30 a.m., his phone pinged on the freeway, heading back toward Knoxville. By 3:45 a.m., his phone was in the vicinity of Emma's neighborhood, just minutes after she had been killed. Officers confronted Riley with this evidence, along with testimony from Alex and Noah about the gun, but he denied everything.
If I told you someone told us that they saw you with a gun, what would you think about that?
I would wonder who said that and where they saw me with the gun.
Alex McCarty said that you showed him a handgun. Where is the gun?
I do not know.
You understand, though, for us, Alex has no reason to lie about something like that.
Yeah, but I'm telling you, I don't know where it's at.
He said that you showed him the gun, you told him that you had it, and you told him that you got it from your granddad.
Don't have the gun. I don't know why he would say that.
Did you ever remember having a conversation with Noah about getting fingerprints off a gun? How do you get fingerprints off a gun?
No.
Riley Gall was now the police's prime suspect, but without enough solid evidence, they couldn't make an immediate arrest. After being released from questioning, Riley wasted no time trying to cover his tracks. He messaged Noah and Alex, instructing them not to speak to the police again and to delete all messages from him. What Riley didn't realize was that both Noah and Alex had been in contact with detectives from the moment they learned about Emma's death. The two were determined to help in any way they could, and that meant recovering the murder weapon. Initially, officers were hesitant about involving them, warning of the potential dangers, but Noah and Alex were adamant. "I wasn't fearful for my safety," Alex later said. "I was just fearful that maybe justice wouldn't be served if we made the wrong move. So with the help of law enforcement, They devised a plan to catch Riley in his own lies. Noah and Alex approached Riley, pretending to agree with him that he needed to get rid of his grandfather's gun. They told him they would help him throw it into the Tennessee River, just as he had asked. But what Riley didn't know was that undercover officers would be waiting nearby. The plan was simple. Once Riley pulled out the gun, Noah and Alex would text the police a prearranged code word, signaling them to move in. Officers also wired both Noah and Alex with hidden microphones and body cameras to record everything. The trap was set. On the night of the operation, Riley, Noah, and Alex made their way toward the river. Riley had been hiding out at his stepfather's house, but now he was ready to dispose of the evidence. And thanks to Noah and Alex, the police were waiting.
Success. It's a bag of trash. I just threw it in there. I don't know what's in there. I just want to throw it and be done.
Oh my God. What? This is a real gun.
Everybody put your hands out of the vehicle now!
Oh my God, man.
Leave your hands out of the vehicle! Step out of the vehicle!
Just 48 hours after Emma Walker's tragic murder, her killer was in handcuffs. Riley Gall was formally charged with her murder. When detectives searched the trunk of Riley's car, they found black clothing and a pair of shoes. This was the final confirmation of what they had already suspected. Riley had been the one lurking outside Emma's house just days before her murder.
Documents began today in the first-degree murder trial.
Our Ann Brock was there today. A lot of emotion surrounding this case. Some tough talk, though, as well, about evidence and patterns of behavior. You picked it all up, Ann.
Absolutely. Emotional, of course, as a mother had to be the first witness to take the stand and describe so much surrounding her daughter's death. But both sides in this case really dug in, trying to show behavior patterns. The defense trying to bring out details of how this teenage girl you see pictured behind me was defying her parents, even when they didn't want her around her boyfriend, trying to show that while he was what the defense attorney even called obsessive in his behavior, he did not intend to harm her. Now, prosecutors are trying to show that Gall was stalking his former girlfriend, even planning to harm her. They're pointing to evidence from the gun they say Riley stole from his grandfather to having a bag full of black clothes and gloves in a garbage bag. Police collecting these things when they arrested him.
The trial of Riley Gall began a year and a half later. He pled not guilty. Riley chose not to testify in his own defense, and his legal team didn't call a single witness to the stand. Instead of arguing that Riley hadn't fired the gun, his attorneys tried to claim the shooting had been an accident. They told the jury that Riley had only intended to scare Emma by shooting into her bedroom wall, hoping she would come running to him for help. They claimed his motive was not murder, but a desperate, clumsy attempt to regain her attention and sympathy. Emma, they said, had always seen Riley as her protector. This was just another elaborate scheme to play the hero, but it had gone horribly wrong. His defense team argued that if the jury found him guilty of anything, it should be reckless homicide, a charge that carried a significantly lesser sentence than first-degree murder.
I submit to you that after you've heard all the evidence, and as I told you in the very beginning of this trial, you will hear some bizarre, reckless conduct regarding my teenage client. That everything that they say about premeditation to kill Emma Walker is consistent with him trying to scare her. Because if you scare her, maybe she'll come have contact with you, and therefore you can try to rehabilitate your relationship. I'm not saying it's logical. Do not think that I submit to you that there's any logic in any of this, because it's not logical. None of it is. But it is consistent with the facts as we know them from the witnesses. It's consistent with the facts as we know them from the 18th. And it's consistent with how Emma reached out to him on the 19th. Asked him to rescue her.
The prosecution, however, painted a much different picture. They argued that this wasn't some tragic accident. It was premeditated murder, driven by anger, jealousy, and the inability to accept rejection. Riley had stalked Emma, he had manipulated her, and when she finally found the strength to walk away for good, he made sure she never would.
But she was their light. And they're blessed that they got 16 years with her. And they can look at it that way and live the rest of their lives knowing at least we got that. But they'll always be muted. You could sense that from them when they took the stand. Each one of them has suffered a loss at the hands of him. This guy, his personal responsibility, his actions, everything that he did, caused them to suffer, and every person in here who she touched in their lives will never be the same again because of him and his selfishness and his lies and his possessiveness and his manipulation and his obsessiveness of Emma Walker. She's creating this fictitious, this bogus kidnapping story to upset her. When you think about the fact that 3 o'clock in the morning, dressed in black, he's standing outside a 16-year-old girl's bedroom, and you think of all the places he could have placed that shot. All the things that he could have done. Shoot up into the air, shoot in through the window, anywhere, but where you shot. Shot placement shows you an intent to kill.
Mr. Gilder, has the jury reached a verdict?
Yes, sir, we have.
Will you please stand? Mr. Gall, please stand. Mr. Gilder, in count 1, the first defined offense charging the defendant with first-degree murder, did the jury reach a verdict?
Yes, we did.
What is your verdict?
Guilty.
And for the lesser included offense of stalking, did the jury reach a verdict?
We did.
What is your verdict?
Guilty.
The jury deliberated for just a few hours before reaching their verdict. William Riley Gall was found guilty of first-degree murder of Emma Walker, stalking, theft, reckless endangerment, possession of a firearm during a dangerous felony.
I know that nothing I can do will ever bring Emma back or alleviate the pain that I caused. But what I can do is tell the truth of what happened that night. My intentions were not, and never have been, to cause Emma any physical harm. At times, I was a terrible boyfriend. I caused her emotional and psychological pain during the 2 years that we were together. But I never once even imagined to cause her any physical harm. My intentions that night were never to harm Emma, let alone take her life. I wanted to scare her, to frighten her so bad that she would have no choice but to talk to me again, to confide in me. I would be there to comfort her and to win her back.
Under Tennessee law, a first-degree murder conviction carries an automatic life sentence. Riley was sentenced to life in prison, with a minimum of 51 years before he would even be eligible for parole. This means he won't see freedom until he is well into his 70s, if ever. In May 2021, Riley Gall sought an acquittal based on insufficient evidence. If that request was denied, he was seeking a new trial. A motion hearing was set for June 4, 2021, but his request was swiftly denied. Riley's attorney has since vowed to appeal. Emma should have graduated high school in May 2018. Her family accepted her diploma on her behalf, and at the graduation ceremony, her cap and gown were placed on the empty chair where she should have been sitting. Since her death, Emma's loved ones have worked tirelessly to keep her memory alive. Her high school established a scholarship in her honor. A local neonatal intensive care unit patient room at East Tennessee Children's Hospital was named after her, a tribute to her dream of becoming a neonatal nurse. Her mother, Jill, has since spoken out, encouraging young people in unhealthy relationships to recognize the warning signs and seek help. Emma's love of animals and her dreams of becoming a nurse were such big parts of who she was, Jill said. Now, her name lives on in ways that continue to help others, just as she always wanted to. Hey guys, just a quick interruption. If you like this content, could I ask a big favor and hit that like button as it really helps a lot. And if you haven't subscribed yet, why not? It's free. Now let's get back to it. "19-year-old Mia Marcano was born in Pembroke Pines, Florida, to parents Marlon and Yema. She had a younger brother, Marlon Jr., whom she affectionately called Munchie. Though her mother and father had separated when she was young, they remained close, and Mia had a great relationship with both of them. She also had a strong bond with her stepmother, Giselle. Mia was known for her ambition, adventurous spirit, and unwavering loyalty, especially when it came to protecting her little brother. Those closest to her described her as someone whose energy naturally drew people in. After high school, staying in Florida was a top priority for Mia. She initially enrolled at the University of Central Florida before transitioning to Valencia College, where she pursued an associate degree in arts. She had aspirations of either training in sports medicine or physiotherapy. Beyond academics, Mia had a deep love for the creative arts, particularly fashion and design. She was a regular participant in local carnivals and loved Florida's vibrant festival scene. While studying, Mia moved into Arden Villas, a student apartment complex where most of the residents were also students. She also landed a job at the complex, assisting with leasing apartments. The job was perfect. It was convenient, flexible, and allowed her to earn money while focusing on her studies. She frequently flew home to visit her family, staying in constant communication with them. It was completely out of character for Mia to go long without checking in. So when September 24th, 2021 arrived and Mia was set to fly home for the weekend, her family expected the usual, a text letting them know she was on her way. But this time, no message came. Hours passed, and her family's concern deepened. When her flight landed, Mia was nowhere to be found. By 9:30 p.m. that Friday night, panic had fully set in. Mia was not answering her phone, and there was no logical explanation for her silence. Fearing the worst, her family reported her missing and requested a welfare check at her apartment.
Office. This line is being recorded. This is Operator Winstead. How may I help you?
Hi, I'm calling to find out if I can have a wellness check.
Deputy Samir Paulino arrived at Arden Villas at 10:02 p.m., but when he knocked, no one answered. Everything outside seemed normal. There were no obvious signs of forced entry or disturbance. After waiting for her roommates to return, the deputy finally gained access to Mia's unit. When they reached her bedroom door, they found it locked from the inside. Unable to get in, they tried looking through her bedroom window, and that's when the first major red flag appeared. Inside, they saw a small bookcase pushed against the door, as if someone had barricaded it from the inside. Once inside the room, the troubling reality became clear. Mia's room was a disaster. Her bedding was strewn across the floor, red stains covered her pillows, and her suitcase, packed and ready for her flight, sat untouched by her desk. Even more disturbing, the locks that Mia's father had personally installed on her windows for safety had been broken off. Pieces of her jewelry were found shattered on the floor, and yet there was no sign of Mia anywhere. Despite these clear signs of a potential crime scene, Deputy Paulino did not notify the Criminal Investigations Division. Instead, he left the scene to respond to other calls, failing to escalate the case to a higher priority. Mia's roommate was visibly distraught and quickly gave police the name of a man who had been making her uncomfortable for weeks. The name that kept coming up was 27-year-old Armando Caballero, a maintenance worker at Arden Villas. Armando had been employed at the complex since June 2021, and he had developed a fixation on Mia that many had noticed. He repeatedly asked her out, made unwanted advances, and wouldn't take no for an answer. Mia rejected him every time, yet he continued pursuing her. At one point, he even sent her $700 via Cash App, calling it a gift for being pretty. Disgusted, Mia immediately refunded the money, but the situation only grew more uncomfortable. Other women at the apartment complex had their own disturbing encounters with Armando. One woman living at a nearby complex recalled that months earlier, he had slipped a note under her door asking her out. After she declined, a weight was thrown at her window in the middle of the night. She was convinced Armando was behind it and reported him to the police, but with no solid evidence, the case was eventually dropped. By the time Mia's family arrived at the apartment complex at 3 a.m. to assist in the search, they noticed several things that the deputy had overlooked. A yellow box cutter was lying under her bed. Her childhood teddy bear, which Mia never traveled without, was still sitting in her room. The most chilling moment came just an hour later. At 4 a.m., a man suddenly appeared outside Mia's apartment. It was Armando Caballero. Armando was off work and had no reason to be turning up there. Mia's family had heard enough about him to know exactly who he was. The fact he was there with no need to be was very unsettling for them. Why was he inserting himself into this? Detectives asked him if he knew what was going on, and he replied that he was on the phone with a coworker, Tatiana, who had allegedly informed him that Mia was missing, which was why he was there.
You mentioning Tati, and no one knows Tati. You get a call, the roommates don't even know Tati. You've been sleeping since 10 o'clock, and all of a sudden you're showing up here at 4 o'clock in the morning
because me and Tati were conversating about it, so I finally, it came up.
But
should
Tati
I go and see
someone,
if I see anything?
No one knows Tati. That's my whole thing. Not
Tati
even the roommate knows Tati.
Here.
She's an employee, but you keep saying Tati is a friend and that you've all hung out together. No one here knows Tati. All her other friends showed up. Her closest friends that live in the complex were all here with us early on. No one knows Tati. Only you. As of right now, you have sent obsessive texts to Mia. We have all seen the text. You talked about giving her your life savings. You cash out her money, and you claim that you weren't in touch.
Who told her gave her life savings? I never said that. As a matter of fact, we're going to get a police report to pull your phone records if that's the case. There's evidence of obsession. You're fascinated with me. It's not only from my side, so don't try to make this.
No one's saying that. It takes
she's not here to defend herself right now, so
she's missing. So we're talking to you who've been going back and forth on text.
That is your family. Right. But until we figure out what's going on, just don't beat me up.
Nobody's beating you up.
I'm guilty.
You put yourself in the middle right here. You brought yourself over here.
Because we're concerned.
You're concerned. Why weren't you concerned hours ago?
I just found out. We didn't think it was serious. I don't even know how Tati found out.
Somebody's missing and you don't think it's serious.
Maybe they're hanging out. They got this place right here. They go downtown. I don't know. Maybe her phone's off. I don't know what she did.
She was supposed to show up for a flight and didn't show up.
Despite everything Mia's family and friends had reported about Armando's behavior, detectives let him walk away. A background check on Armando revealed something disturbing. He was a convicted felon with a history of violent offenses. In 2017, he was convicted of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. In 2013, he was arrested for setting off an explosive device in a college dorm, which he later claimed was just a prank. Despite this history, no immediate action was taken. A security guard at Arden Villas even managed to lift fingerprints from Mia's broken window using tape, but when he handed them over to Deputy Paulino, he refused to take them, stating that this case was not a high priority. The same security guard also noticed a screwdriver and a cell phone case in the back seat of Armando's car. But without a search warrant, police had no legal right to look inside. The handling of Mia's case was frustratingly slow, but it was about to gain momentum. A new deputy was assigned to the case at the request of Mia's aunt, and when he arrived at the scene, he was immediately alarmed. Unlike Paulino, he escalated the situation, alerting missing persons detectives and formally launching an investigation. It was now the morning of September 25th, 8:47 a.m., and investigators received a call from Mia's family urging them to check out Armando Caballero's apartment. Their unease about him had only grown, and convinced that he knew more than he was letting on, they decided to take matters into their own hands. They had started their own covert surveillance, watching him from their car. As they observed him from a distance, they noticed something disturbing. Armando stepped outside carrying a glove, a backpack, and a pink blanket. The moment Mia's family laid eyes on the blanket, they were filled with dread. That blanket, oh my God, that's my blanket. Police rushed to Armando's apartment. When they arrived, he agreed to let Mia's family enter while officers stood by, ensuring nothing was touched or moved, as they didn't yet have a search warrant. Despite their growing suspicions, law enforcement could only watch as the search continued under these limitations. By 3 p.m., hours after Armando left his apartment, police officially confirmed what Mia's family already suspected. He was now the prime suspect in her disappearance. Authorities scrambled to obtain a proper search warrant, which was finally approved 24 hours after Mia went missing. However, before they could act, something shocking happened. At 9:35 p.m., Armando sent a single text message, and then, just like Mia, he too had also vanished. The sudden disappearance of their prime suspect sent shockwaves through the investigation. Was Mia still alive, being held somewhere against her will? Had Armando gone to move her, or had he gone on the run? Police had no answers, and every passing hour without Mia only heightened their fears.
It's been 3 long days since anyone has heard from Mia Marcano.
Mia, baby girl, if you can hear me, if you're seeing me, we're here.
A desperate plea to bring 19-year-old Mia Marcano home. Her family hopeful that she's alive and okay.
I believe Armando may have given us a sign that Mia's in the area. It's just what I feel personally in my heart.
Her family, some even coming in town from South Florida, joining volunteers Tuesday in the search for Mia.
And her father, speaking with Local 10 today, says he's beyond worried.
The relationship that we have it's like we communicate hundreds of times in one day, and to not be able to hear from her or know where she is, it's like really breaking my heart right now.
This is unusual for her.
Very unusual, yes.
3 days had now passed since Mia Marcano was last seen. The search efforts expanded drastically as hundreds of volunteers joined law enforcement in combing through miles of land. Yet there was still no trace of Mia. Then, detectives made a crucial discovery. At 2:14 p.m. on the day Mia disappeared 3 hours before she was last seen, a master key fob had been used to access her apartment. This was not Mia's key. The access logs revealed that the key fob was registered to Armando Caballero. The evidence was damning. Further records showed that at 4:34 p.m., the key had been used again. Then, at 5:52 p.m., Armando's car was captured on surveillance footage leaving Arden Villas. The final and eerie image of Mia walking into her apartment that afternoon was now deeply unsettling. Her mother later admitted that she couldn't stop screaming at the screen whenever she saw the footage, desperately wishing something, anything, had distracted Mia and stopped her from going inside. With what they now knew, detectives obtained an arrest warrant for Armando Caballero on burglary charges, believing this would help build a case against him and finally get answers. But before the arrest could take place, an unexpected phone call would change everything.
911, you need police, fire, medical?
We found a suicide on property.
Okay, and is there a unit, or is that the unit number 525 where you found him?
No, they're in the garage. It's one of our garages, but we just store paint in there. So
okay.
Yeah, sorry.
All right, he's beyond. I mean, he's deceased. That beyond any help?
I believe so.
Okay. All right.
Dead, right?
Okay, we'll have an officer over there in a few minutes. You said it was a male?
Yes.
Okay, see you shortly. Thank you.
Armando Caballero was dead. The 27-year-old had taken his own life. The case was unraveling at an alarming rate, and with Armando now gone, a new fear set in. Would they ever find Mia? Would there be any justice at all?
New
video of a man Mia Marcano's family believes is her maintenance man, carrying her stuff away the day after she went missing and 2 days before he turned up dead.
Dave, this new video we just saw could be a big clue that they've been looking for.
It definitely could be. And maybe more clues here inside Arden Villas, which has been the scene of the longest search here throughout the day by law enforcement. And that is still going on right now. The family still hopeful that they'll find her following every potential lead. They have searched several locations, including wooded and swampy areas, and they're not giving up.
Today's that day where we got up upset. There hasn't been much crying at this point. We're just ready to bring her home, but we need everyone's help.
Just yesterday, Arden Villas Apartments manager sent out a memo talking about proactive measures to enhance their safety protocols, saying they've repositioned a guard to the front gate to document all residents and guests leaving the property. These women saying they haven't seen that yet.
I think that the gate stays open for about 5 cars to go through, so even sometimes it doesn't even make sense for me to scan my key fob. I'm praying that she's coming home. I have a hope that she's still out there.
Fox 35 News did not see a guard at the gate today, but there was a guard present during our live shots last night.
With Armando's death, the search for Mia intensified. Investigators shifted their focus to his digital footprint, analyzing his phone data to trace his movements on the night she vanished. At 7:01 p.m., approximately 2 hours after Mia was last seen, records showed that Armando logged a maintenance call, a request for Mia's unit. This request was completely fake. Mia or her roommates had never placed this request, proving that Armando was trying to cover his tracks. Minutes later, at 7:11 p.m., he called the apartment staff and asked them to open the gate to the complex. Then at 7:16 p.m., Mia's own key fob was swiped at her unit. But security logs confirmed that no one actually entered. While detectives couldn't yet prove Armando was behind this, they knew for certain that it wasn't Mia. At 7:40 p.m., his car was picked up on surveillance footage leaving the complex once again. They now had a clear picture of his suspicious movements, but one key question remained. Where had he taken Mia? After extensively reviewing his phone data, detectives found something unusual. On the evening that Mia disappeared, Armando had been in an area called Timber Scan. This location held personal significance for him. It was where he used to live. But why had he gone back there? And why did he only stay for 20 minutes? The area was notorious for its abandoned homes, boarded-up buildings, and dense wooded areas. Residents described it as an unsafe and eerie place that many avoided at all costs. If Armando had lived there before, why would he need to return? Investigators feared the worst. They immediately relocated their search efforts to Timber Scan, bringing in FBI agents to assist. Mia's family and friends refused to give up hope. They prayed she was still alive somewhere, holding on to whatever sliver of hope they could.
We understand and appreciate that there's been a tremendous amount of interest in this case, both here in Central Florida and beyond. So we're talking to you now to kind of balance the intense interest while also maintaining the integrity of this investigation.
Was she kidnapped?
So we believe that the suspect that we had named, Armando Caballero, is responsible. We don't know all the circumstances involved. So at this time, we don't believe there is another person involved. But remember, I said these investigations constantly shift and change. So we're taking all this information in, and we would never ever rule that out. But he was the main person that we were focusing on.
After a week of desperate searching, an awful discovery was made. Approximately 18 miles from Arden Villas, in an abandoned section of Timber Scan apartments, search teams found a body.
At 7:02, a community is in mourning after officials in Orlando say they may have found the body of 19-year-old Mia Marcano.
The body was found in Orlando in overgrown brush amongst trash at a partially abandoned housing development called Timber Scan Apartments. Mia's suspected killer, Armando Caballero, lived there once.
I do think that he was trying to throw authorities off the trail by going all over the place, by going up to New Smyrna Beach, maybe in an effort to, possibly get away with this before he took his own life.
Her grandmother said she's found a little peace, even with such devastating news.
I have to say, I thank God for bringing her to me. Because I said before, I wouldn't know what life would have been if I've never found her.
Detectives also made another chilling discovery. The same black duct tape that had been used on Mia's body was also found inside Armando's car. As if that wasn't damning enough, 2 marks on Armando's fingers were determined to be bite marks, and additional scratches and bruises on his body were consistent with a recent struggle. It was now clear that Mia had fought for her life. But despite this mountain of evidence, one crushing truth remained. Armando was dead, and with him, so were the answers to everything that happened in Mia's apartment that day. Her family, friends, and loved ones were left in agony, knowing they would never truly know what she had endured in those final moments. Any chance of closure was stolen from them forever. Meanwhile, residents at Arden Villas were left horrified. They had repeatedly voiced safety concerns for months, and now the worst possible scenario had unfolded. One resident summed up the fear and frustration many felt. It's just creepy. The fact that maintenance workers have access to our apartments at all times, that we just got these key fobs last month. If those key fobs hadn't been introduced, maybe no one would have gotten into her apartment at all. People are living in apartment complexes, going to sleep at night, not knowing that there is someone who has free access to their home. Mia's family's anger and grief only intensified as they realized how avoidable this tragedy might have been. The fallout from Mia's case was massive, sparking investigations, policy changes, and legal action. 2 Orange County deputies who worked on Mia's disappearance were found to have violated department policies in handling the case. It was determined that Deputy Samir Paulino failed to follow proper procedures when he first investigated Mia's apartment. Despite finding blood on her pillow, broken jewelry, and evidence of forced entry, he failed to notify the Criminal Investigations Division. Instead, Mia was incorrectly logged as a voluntary missing person instead of an endangered missing person, delaying a proper investigation. Former police officer and private investigator Rick Raymond criticized the early handling of the case, saying, "When multiple people are telling you that an item belongs to a missing person, and you find that item in someone else's car, that should immediately set off alarms. That should tell you, I need to look at this person now." Sheriff John Mina acknowledged the failures but defended the department, saying, "That deputy didn't have all the information that we have now, a week and a half later. These things take time, but yes, more could have and should have been done." The Professional Standards Division conducted an internal investigation leading to disciplinary actions. Deputy Paulino received a 150-hour unpaid suspension. His supervisor, Corporal Kenneth Dale, was also found to have violated department policies and received a 10-hour unpaid suspension. These punishments did little to ease the pain and frustration of Mia's family. In March 2022, police released their final report, a 100-page document that fully detailed everything investigators had learned about Armando Caballero and why he was and remains the only suspect in Mia's murder. Determined to seek justice, Mia's family launched multiple lawsuits. One, a wrongful death lawsuit against Arden Villas, arguing that the complex failed to protect Mia despite red flags and security concerns. 2, a lawsuit against the Orange County Sheriff's Office, claiming that authorities mishandled the case and failed to treat Mia's apartment as a crime scene from the start. Arden Villas eventually settled the lawsuit, but Mia's family refused to let her death be in vain. Their attorney, Darrell Washington, added another shocking claim. He and Mia's family believe that Armando may not have acted alone. "We believe others could have aided Armando in killing Mia, and we still have unanswered questions." Meanwhile, residents of Arden Villas started protests demanding better security. An open letter circulated, detailing years of safety concerns and listing serious security failures, including lack of cameras around the property, poor lighting in key areas, zero surveillance in the parking lot, frequent break-ins and maintenance complaints. Residents demanded change, and Mia's family fought to make sure no one else would suffer the same fate. In honor of what would have been Mia's 20th birthday, her family was given the key to the city of Pembroke Pines, and her birthday was officially recognized as Mia Marcano Day. But the biggest change came in June 2022, when Mia's Law, Senate Bill 898, was signed into law. The new law drastically improved tenant safety. All potential employees in apartment complexes must undergo a thorough background check. Anyone with a violent criminal history or anyone listed as a sex offender or predator cannot be hired. All master keys must be tracked and logged, ensuring only authorized access. Tenants must be given a full 24-hour notice before maintenance enters their apartment, doubling the previous 12-hour requirement. In addition, Mia's family created the Mia Marcano Foundation, which supports families of missing persons, advocates for student safety, and assists in search efforts for those who remain missing. They also launched the MMF Safe and Secure Accreditation Program, helping apartment complexes improve security measures to protect their residents. Mia's family has worked tirelessly to turn their heartbreak into action, ensuring that no other family has to endure the same nightmare. But despite all of these changes, one heartbreaking truth remains. Mia should still be here. When she booked her flight home on September 24, 2021, it was supposed to be a normal trip. Instead, in just a few short hours, everything spiraled into tragedy. Her mother, Ima, summed up the devastating loss. "You can never take time for granted. Life is too short." Talking about Mia in the past tense, "I never thought I'd have to. I always thought I had forever." Her brother, Marlon Jr., added, "Nothing will ever bring me pure happiness again, because every time something good happens, I remember that I can't call my sister to tell her about it. She should be here." And Mia's mother, Ima, expressed the deepest pain of all. "Every day I look at her pictures, but there are no more pictures left to take, no more memories to make. She'll be forever 19. For this case, we travel to Sydney, Australia, a city known for its stunning harbor, lively culture, and high quality of life. But in October 2023, this vibrant city was rocked by a crime so shocking it left the community reeling. What started as a brief relationship between two young adults, Paul Thyssen and Lily James, ended in an act of unimaginable violence. Lily James was a remarkable young woman full of ambition and energy. Born on May 21, 2002, she was raised in a loving home by her parents, Jamie and Peter, alongside her younger brother, Max. The family was particularly close to Lily's grandmother, Barbara, and together they formed a tight-knit support system. From an early age, Lily was full of life, fun, loyal, and endlessly bright. After graduating from Dane Bank Anglican School for Girls in 2020, she pursued her passion for sports, studying sports business at the University of Technology, Sydney. Her love for athletics extended beyond academics. She was an avid water polo player and even worked as a part-time water polo coach at St. Andrew's Cathedral School, a private school in the heart of Sydney. It was there that she would cross paths with Paul Thyssen, the man who would ultimately take her life. Born in 1999, Paul Thyssen grew up in the Netherlands in an affluent family. His parents, Steph and Esther, were successful corporate professionals, and despite their demanding careers, they were devoted to their only son. In 2015, the family relocated to Sydney, where Paul enrolled at St. Andrew's Cathedral School. During his time at St. Andrew's, Paul became a sports captain and a part of the school leadership team, excelling academically and athletically. However, in 2018, his parents moved back to the Netherlands, and he returned with them, only to come back to Australia in 2020 after graduating university. Now an independent young adult, Paul pursued a career in sports education, working at St. Andrews as a cricket and hockey coach, while studying for a master's in teaching. He also took on additional responsibilities as an after-hours coordinator. On the surface, he seemed like a dedicated and driven young man. But beneath that polished exterior lurked a much darker side. While many adults in his professional circle saw him as polite and hardworking, students found him unsettling. Multiple students reported to their friends that Paul made them feel uncomfortable, particularly young female students who described his behavior as creepy and overly flirtatious. Among his peers, Paul was arrogant, often objectifying women and displaying a fragile ego that made him unpopular with other men. Those closest to him would later recognize the classic red flags of narcissism: an intense need for control, an inability to handle rejection, and an alarming lack of empathy. Unfortunately, Lily James didn't realize any of this until it was too late. Paul and Lily's paths inevitably crossed at St. Andrews. By September 2023, the two had started dating, but for reasons unknown, they kept their relationship a secret from most people. Perhaps they wanted to avoid gossip at school, or maybe Lily had already sensed something was off. Whatever the reason, it wasn't long before Lily started to feel uncomfortable in the relationship. Instead of the excitement and happiness that usually comes with a new romance, she felt unease. Just 5 weeks in, she ended things. For Lily, it was a simple decision. The relationship wasn't working, so she walked away. But for Paul, it was an unforgivable betrayal. Breakups happen every day, and most people experience at least 3 to 4 major breakups in their lifetime. But Paul didn't take this like a normal person. His reaction was one of rage, obsession, and entitlement, and ultimately, it would cost Lily her life. On the evening of October 25th, 2023, Lily never made it home. Her parents, Jamie and Peter, quickly grew concerned. It wasn't like their daughter to be unresponsive. She was usually punctual and responsible, yet their calls and texts went unanswered. By 10 p.m., Jamie called the police to report his daughter missing. Shortly after, he received a text message from Lily's phone, but something about it seemed off. The message simply asked him to pick her up from school. This wasn't typical of Lily. The wording didn't sound like her at all. Alarm bells rang in her father's mind, and he immediately drove to St. Andrew's Cathedral School to find her. When he arrived, his worst fears came true. The school was surrounded by police cars, crime scene tape stretched across the grounds. Something terrible had happened. It wasn't long before police confirmed Jamie's worst nightmare. Inside the gymnasium bathroom, officers had found a young woman's body. There were clear signs of a struggle. Blood covered the scene. She had been brutally bludgeoned to death with a hammer. It was Lily James. At first, police had no idea who had committed this horrific crime, but as they pieced together the timeline, Paul quickly became their prime suspect, and he was nowhere to be found. The murder was determined to have taken place between 7 and 8 p.m., but police didn't receive the anonymous call reporting the body until midnight. The call was traced to Diamond Bay Reserve in Vaucluse, a seaside cliff known for suicides. Surveillance footage from a nearby home showed Paul parking his car at 8:47 p.m., walking toward the cliffs and returning to his vehicle 8 minutes later. He sat there for 36 minutes, then drove off. At midnight, he called the police from an anonymous number. 2 hours after that, he vanished. The next morning, October 27, his body was found at the bottom of the cliffs. Paul had taken the coward's way out. Instead of facing justice, he had thrown himself from the cliffs at the Gap, a location he had previously visited with Lily just weeks before. With Paul dead, authorities pieced together what had happened. Earlier that day, Paul had purchased a hammer and rented a car, a clear sign of premeditation. At 7 p.m., he followed Lily into the gym bathroom. He attacked her violently, beating her so severely that her face was unrecognizable. He spent an hour in the bathroom before leaving. After fleeing to Vaucluse, he disposed of his belongings in a bin near the cliffs. He called the police anonymously before ending his own life. Paul's final act of manipulation was texting Lily's father, either to ensure her body was found or to confuse the timeline of her murder. Following Lily's murder, her family considered suing the school, questioning why there were no overnight security guards to prevent such an attack. The community mourned Lily deeply. Friends described her as kind, funny, and compassionate. A private funeral was held, live-streamed for those who couldn't attend. As for Paul, his parents refused to repatriate his body to the Netherlands. Instead, they had him cremated in Sydney. Lily deserved so much more. She was full of life, love, and promise. But in the end, she fell victim to a man who couldn't handle rejection. Sydney will never forget her name. Thank you for listening. I hope I've done justice in telling the stories of these three incredible young women whose lives were tragically cut short by men who couldn't handle rejection and allowed their obsessions to turn deadly. Their stories deserve to be heard, remembered, and learned from. If you found these cases as important as I did, please hit the like button to help keep their voices alive. And until next time, stay safe out there.